says I'm live. Can you hear me? So, in the background, can you hear me? Mic check 1 2 1 2. I might have to sit closer, which I don't mind doing. Okay, so this is my personal office, gaming room, and everything. So whenever you watch me, this is working pretty fine. So this is just a yada 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 yada, right? Nothing special about this. You can see, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's an OG flag. There's a 210. They're right behind me. Come and take a flag. I've got my own personal flags also that I've made. I think you've seen the photo in the back where it says Pura Vida, Birds Up, Roadrunner for Life, FAFO, right? That kind of fun stuff. So basically, I'm using a very cheap, lack of a better phrase, Logitech thing. I'm trying to figure out how to set it up. What sets it up properly? That's a little weird. So, you know, these cameras, these webcams, the problem with them is I'm literally staring in the middle of my computer. I've got that right in the middle, but it doesn't ever put me what appears to be in the middle of the screen. And the more I move it to my left, the more it pushes me to the left. The more I move to the right, the more it's like angled. So a little odd, which isn't bad. But what's going to make this nice is should be able to like look at stats this way, and yeah, there you go. So like if I want to pull up stuff when I'm talking to stuff, so I'm going to start doing it this way going forward, and then maybe I'll figure out how to do a background when I go live. I probably just have to look through the setup of it. Anybody watch the football game last night? Let's talk about that football game. So we know Notre Dame beat Indiana. Did that surprise anybody? Did anybody actually think Indiana was a 10th ranked team in the nation? Yeah, I know they were 11-1, but let's talk through this legitimately. So we say we want playoffs. I didn't. I never did. So people say they want a playoff. Give everybody a chance. Well, you've seen this. Did Indiana ever stand a chance? That's an honest question. And the reason why I say that's an honest question is because if Indiana never stood a chance and said they were 10th ranked team in the nation, then by default, you can honestly say by this one game only. Now there's other games coming up. You got SMU playing Penn State. But if Penn State beats SMU, if Ohio State beats Tennessee, and if Texas beats Clemson, then you can honestly say that you needed no more than 8 teams. Because this was about college football. When you have 130 plus FBS schools, you can't just say, well, the top 12, the top 16. And the reason why I say you can't say that is because this isn't a private league of the absolute 100 best college football players every year entering the NFL draft, right? 32 teams times 7, well, 210 teams. But we know most of those players from rounds 5, 6, and 7 usually don't stick around, right? They don't make the team. They don't make the cut after a few years. So that's why I say the 100 best players always make it on the team. Those 100 best players, I guarantee you, are playing for Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, I already said Ohio State, Michigan. It's rare that UTSA has one of them, but we have, you know, you can't take away what Tariq is doing. You can't take away what Sincere is doing, right? Or what Marcus Davenport did. David Morgan did for 4 or 5 years, right? But that's one player on our team pretty much every season. Well, Sincere and Tariq played on the same team. But even our best QB probably wouldn't make it in the NFL if he was completely healthy. And I love Frank Harris. He was legitimate. He was legit, but even then he probably doesn't. He might play backup. He might make it as a backup, right? But he didn't have the arm strength to make it in the NFL as a starter. He had the physical tools to run and whatnot, right? Injuries hampered his career. Now, with that being said, what do you think about this playoffs? And that's my point. The top 100 players in college football are hogged by the top 10 teams in college football. Indiana had one player on that team, and that's their running back. That kid's got skill. One player. I didn't see anything else anywhere else on that team of anybody that looks like he can do it in the next level, right? Now Arizona State, number 4, simply because they won their conference. You're gonna find out they're probably not a 4th-ranked team in the nation. They're not as good as Texas. They're not as good as Tennessee. They wouldn't beat either. I don't think they're gonna beat either of those teams. But they're better than Indiana. Right? You could have stopped at 8. And in fact, they're outside of any lame argument about Florida State being left out last year. The only argument was, okay, that's them versus number 4. And that would only go based on your hatred for Alabama. Yeah, I said it. Your hatred for Alabama. You know it. Alabama got beat pretty bad by OU. But even then, you know that it wasn't as bad if that proper call's made. That wasn't an illegal touch. No how, no way. We line up in that formation all the time, and it's never called. Because if that is an illegal formation, you know what it is? It's also an illegal man downfield. Because he's on the line of scrimmage. But that's okay. Now, with that being said, you had to have Vanderbilt play the best game of their life, and you had to have Tennessee play one of the best games of their life. Of course they're going to do that when they play somebody like Alabama. One's a rival, and one's a nobody who's going to finally win after 40 years. But you act like that's some kind of proof that someone like Alabama doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs over SMU. SMU, if you put Vanderbilt in the ACC, Vanderbilt wins 10 games. It's that simple. You know it as well as I do. You know that, but yet they still got 2 people in the college football playoffs. Why? Because fairness? There's no such thing as fairness in college football. There's no such thing as fairness in the NFL or the NBA. If there is fairness in the NBA, let me spit you some truth. You would never say, well, the stars get the calls. If there are stars, they wouldn't need the calls, would they? And then you always say, yeah, no, I hear you guys. You guys say Alabama gets preferential treatment. Do they? Have you seen how many penalties are called against them compared to their opponents? Some preferential treatment, huh? Look it up. I dare you. Now, is this better football? Was that a good game to watch? Was that worthy of watching? I guarantee you it's going to happen just like it happened at FCS. None of y'all care. None of y'all care about FCS. You'll mention in passing, well, Sam Houston State and James Madison in the FCS, so they were good because they were always in the playoffs. Okay. Did you watch them? I guarantee you. I don't see any Facebook posts about it, but I'll see Facebook posts about Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Tennessee, Texas, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, all day long. These people that didn't go to those schools. making those posts? They live in the states, yeah. That those schools represent, yeah. But you maybe go to school. Now I expect to see a lot of UTSA posts because I'm friends with a lot of UTSA graduates and fans of UTSA, right? But I don't see you guys going out of your way to post incarnate word. In fact, when I'm sitting there watching, reading Balls Deep or UTSA tailgaters or anything like that, and someone posts UIW and let's support Sam Houston, think no, screw them. They're our enemy. They're recruiting against us. No, no, no. I want the bus, their team bus, to get 4 flats on the way to their football games. I want them, when they go to their football games, to have no hot water in the winter and nothing but hot water in the early games, and no AC in the in the locker room of the teams they play. McCafe. That's good stuff. Especially when it comes out of my Homer UTSA mug. It's good stuff. All right. I didn't mean to talk about the football game. This was kind of a goof trying to figure out what's going to work. And I think this is going to work. But anyway, let's do a little bit more about the studio here. So let me see. Which way to get? Over here? Yeah, there we go. So those over there, as we all know, we all love our dogs. So I've got a cat, my dog Norman, my dog Prissy, and my dog Tinker. So that's a pug, a Pomeranian, a Pomchi, and a Russian blue cat over there, and that's the mausoleum for my loved ones. Tinker was probably 22 years old when she passed. Norman, I had to put him to sleep. He was 16. Prissy had to put her to sleep. She was 15. And Kitty passed when she was 20. So, the only one that did not live in on my current house was Norman. But yeah, I've got 2 Shih Tzus now. One's 15 and the other one's going on 19 come January 31st. I will have had her 18 full years, and she was about a year old when I got her. You'll see me post on Facebook. If you're personal friends with Facebook, if you're on my Let Medallion Facebook page, then you probably haven't seen photos of her, but yeah, the white one. Something in this house, man. So I better stay here forever. Maybe I live forever too, huh? And yep, that's the mausoleum of the important animals in our life. Dogs rule. So what do we think about this bowl game? What do you think? What if you're watching right now? Post in the comments. If not, that's okay. So I'm doing this live. So I'm gonna look up some stat. Oh, I don't want to watch. Whatchamacallit? I don't want ESPN Plus. Let's see, football bowl game. Bada boom boom, bada boom boom. So we're playing in the Boca Raton Bowl, right? Boca Raton Bowl, Myrtle Beach Bowl. Unfortunately, I can't go. I don't know if it's a legit excuse. I actually am hosting Christmas Eve. So getting there and getting back, I won't have time to cook the turkey, make turkey soup, warm up the ham and all that fun stuff for a 5 o'clock get together on Christmas Eve. So it's kind of terrible. So I see Memphis struggled with a very depleted West Virginia. I was having fun trolling Memphis fans. Yeah, I'll say it. I'm not a fan of them. Sam Houston State won the New Orleans Bowl over Georgia Southern. Good for them. Whoop-de-doo. Who gives a shit? See, Florida beat Tulane 33-8 in the Gasparilla Bowl. And so we play Coastal Carolina on the home field of Coastal Carolina. That's gonna always be fun. Let's see if we can't get some stats here. So their season leaders, he threw for their passer Vasco threw for 2,120 yards. McCown threw for 3,170 yards. My concern is he didn't throw for many touchdowns, but they ran the ball not any better than we did. So I don't know if they're 6-6. So I don't know if the Sun Belt was easier this year than the AAC, because Sun Belt and AAC were competitors, right? Kind of like the Sun Belt's the class of the G5, and the AAC was a G5 plus. Is the best way to describe it, right? You know, we let the game go with Army. That really aggravates me. Really aggravates me. That loss aggravates me as bad as not as bad as the Tulsa loss, but that loss got me. I ain't gonna lie, 'cause that was a chance for play calling. That was a chance for growth of the total program. We're at a point to where we have to win football games. We can't go 6-6. We can't. I don't think we can have a 6-7 season. I really don't, because then we will be a true stepping stone, right? For everybody that comes here. 1 year, play good, shine, boom, you're gone. You know, Coach Traylor is a great guy. You know, I've talked to him, not personally. I've been to practices. I met him when he first came to the university. He was at a basketball game. I talked to him then shortly. He said all the right things, and he's obviously doing all the right things from a head coach perspective. But at times, you have to do the small things that aren't sexy, right? You have to do the stuff that, who cares if someone is complaining as long as you win the football game. If you can't lose pretty. Winning ugly is going to matter far more going forward, right? So this game is important to us. This ain't a throwaway game anymore. If we'd beaten Army, this could have been a throwaway game. Now, Coach Traylor has two choices to make here. He either goes out there as a head coach and gets competitive and wants to win this football game with his starters, or he realizes the NCAA is dead, absolutely DED dead. The U.S. Supreme Court has emasculated the NCAA by saying that the NIL is allowable because the players are basically employees. And then they said, which is the dumbest ruling I've ever heard in my life, some of these rulings just make no sense to me. The NCAA is not allowed to say that a player that played for NJCAA, whatever they played there goes against their eligibility at the NCAA. I mean, the NCAA, those rules were set forth by all the member institutions. And if the member institutions agree to that, who is the U.S. Supreme Court, or whoever the court is, to say you can't make those rules? They would never say that about the NBA. Or NFL. NFL literally does what they freaking want. The NFL says you got to be 20 before you can declare for the draft, right? Then the NCAA says you can come right out of high school. Not the NCAA, but NBA says you can come right out of high school. And it was only the NCAA that says, you know, one and done still exists, right? Or the NBA says, well, if you go NCAA, you can do the one and done. But to say that member institutions can't say, if you started off in junior college, we can use those as years of eligibility. Well, then now, if I'm Coach Traylor, I'm playing everybody. I don't care. Because everybody gets 5 years no matter what. Or 4 years, whatever it is. I don't even know if they ruled on that, if you're allowed to have 5 years now. I know they said that was for COVID year, but that was just a weird ruling to me. So if that's the case, there's some rules. If I was a head coach right now, I don't care. I'm calling players all season long. I am making those phone calls. They're employees. My employer can't stop me from taking a phone call from a competitor or from another company, a recruiter from another company. I work for the best beverage company in the world, right? I mentioned McCafe. You've heard me mention where I work with a lot of North Texas people, and I rock my UTSA stuff. So there's your hint. So beverage means both colas and coffee. Not hard to figure out, right? But if the CEO of, say, another beverage company, soda company, were to call me and say, hey, Lip Medallion, I like you. I'm going to double your salary if you come over here and you run my supply chain organization. I'd be like, well, double my salary ain't enough because you're wanting me to run your supply chain organization. That means I'm vice president. You better triple it and give me a lot of stock options. That's not illegal. Now, you're under contract when you're at that position, and you have to honor those contracts that you have with the previous company. But even then, how many times do we see VPs just bounce, and then all they're quiet for 6 months to a year, and then all of a sudden, boop, they show back up at another company as a vice president. Like I said, if I'm Coach Traylor, I'm calling. There's no such thing as tampering anymore. That's not tampering. That's, hey, we think you're great. You're not getting enough playing time. Come on over to us. We'll get you in the rotation. Defensive lineman. Look at what that did for Ronald Triplett. Did it surprise you that he's going to Georgia Tech? Surprised me a little. I ain't gonna lie. Surprised me a little. But I told you, he's shown flashes. And for a skinny guy, he's that wiry kind of guy, man. You don't realize the kind of technique that these kids are being taught. Don't be surprised if Joe Evans, hopefully he heals up, if you don't see him pull like a Brian Price and just find his way throughout the NFL 5 to 8 years and just playing a lot. Don't be surprised if that's what you see. Joe Evans. We've got some guys like that. And I hate to say it, don't be surprised if you don't see Coach Haynes bounce sooner than later after the season. He's a quality defensive line coach. High quality. You see it. They set records this year. I mean, it was defensive line that got all over Memphis. It was defensive line that got all over Texas and Temple. Yeah, they're incredible. So let's get back to this game. So receiving yards, Willie McCoy is still leading receiver. That really surprises me. I don't know why that surprises me. But I bet if I were to look through season leaders, he's really not got that big of a lead over everybody. I'm going to statistics here. Going to receiving. Willie McCoy. Yeah, so the ball was spread around pretty good. Chris Carpenter was number 2 at 463 yards. Hey, they're cutting my yard. So that's going on in the background. Chris Carpenter, 463 to Willie's 536. Houston Thomas has 443 yards receiving. Devin McEwen, 361. Overmeyer, 270. Overmeyer came on as the season went on. As a freshman, he's going to be special for us. We'll be lucky to keep him. That's the guy that don't be surprised if you don't see him his junior year bounce to Texas. He's the kind of guy that if you look at Steve Sarkisian, like when he was coaching when he was a OC, and I go back to Alabama, when he goes to OC, look at the tight ends, the way the tight ends played at Alabama when he was their OC. He's the kind of guy that'll play like that. We'll be lucky to keep him. Dishman, it was his, hard to believe it. It was already his last year, man. It's incredible. He's been with us so long. Obviously, we lost Oscar for this for the season, but I think we've got some players that can play. But like I go back, what is Coach Traylor going to do? Are we going to try to win this game, or are we going to play anybody and everybody and give them a chance to develop? Because it sure feels like we came in expecting to win at least 8 games. Everyone said 8 games. I said it could range between as low as 6. Don't be surprised if it's as low as 6. But I didn't expect to be the 6 to be this way, right? But I was fully committed to 8 wins, right? Well, we were close. And many people said 10 wins. And you know, you can make an argument and think that that could happen, right? With how the bowl game went. I personally take the approach of we got to win this football game. We got to have a winning season. But if we get up big, if somehow, some way we get up big on Coastal Carolina, everybody better play. You better put everybody out there. And if that leads to a loss, say we're up 28-0 at some point, and you don't see backup QB out there, or we're up 42-17 starting fourth quarter, our backup QB ain't out there, there's no hope for our future. I'm going to say it. Because what's going to happen is we're going to every year have growing pains with a new QB. And that should not happen. Not for 4 games. Not for 4 games. Anyway, so we know Eddie Lee is in the transfer portal, so he won't play. Gaborian's in the transfer portal. Well, actually in the transfer portal. He went to CCU. That surprised me a little with the year he's had this year. So I wonder if he had already been contacted. Because he fell off a cliff. He showed some great running, and then just, why me in the rest of the game? Right? It is what it is, man. This is the new phase. This is a new phase of college football. A lot of young players not thinking about their future. Family members not ever been put in that position to think about their kids' future, right? Because they probably didn't have someone thinking about their future, or weren't taught to think about their future either, living in the moment. It's going to get really ugly, right? Now, you can't fault Tripp. He's played great for us. He's had some great moments. He played the full season for us, and then he entered the portal. Part of the problem is when they have early signing period, right, or National Signing Day, is the season's still going on. To me, it makes no sense. That's where I think football the rules have just really lost the play. Like, it should not happen until, to me, after Christmas. And even then, I think it's a little early, maybe. But man, I'm getting old. I'm long in the tooth, and it's been a while. I don't remember when I went back to school after Christmas, right, for spring semester, right? I don't remember. I do know when I was going to Wright State, it was really weird because you had 3 versus 2, right? You didn't have fall and winter, fall and winter with spring and summer mixed together through the semester. We had what they call the quarter system. So the middle of the quarter, the third quarter was Christmas, right? You had a Christmas break, then you came back and finished that quarter out. It was really, really weird, right? And because high school never worked that way, right? High school was like typical college, right? Every first half of the year before Christmas, second half of the year after Christmas, right after New Year's. So I don't remember when we went back, but it sure seems like they could push that back to where it used to be. I don't know why it's so early, and I think that's just created so much chaos. And it's part of this chaos, right? Versus it all happening at one time. Now let's go back to who we play and see what we think about Coastal Carolina. I do know they've had some good football teams in the past. They've got a 53% win because we're on the road. So, does that surprise you? I saw it at one point, but we had a 64%. That might have just been the betting. So let's see. Their passer, 2,100 yards, 271 attempts. Now I've heard that they've got a lot of people out. Like maybe they're sitting out. I haven't heard any news, but it looks like their quarterback carried the ball 107 times. So do they run an option? I don't know anything about them. I have not seen a single game this year with Coastal Carolina. I've been really bad about watching football. Really bad. It's been hard. It's all over the place. We play at odd times. It's made it hard to keep up. It was nice when we were in Conference USA. I gotta say that a few times. With Conference USA made it easier because we played at those 5 o'clock times, right? And so I was able to get the late games done early and then pick up the final of the other games that started at 6, right? So we'd be done, and the game that started at 6, I could at least watch the end of those games and then catch up some of the highlights while watching those games. We're not like that anymore with the AAC. So let me see home. Let me see if I can find anything that's important. Chanticleers. Why is that? Why is it ranking transfer portal top 50? Number one off the board. Who are the best? I'm here for the news for the Chanticleers. Coastal Carolina. Yeah, there's really no news on them. Let's see if I can find anything in the transfer portal. Oh, that's ESPN Plus. That doesn't matter. I don't care. Anyway, this is a road game. We're going to be in a hostile environment on their thing. And, our Roadrunners got to give it to them. Got to give it to us. I wish everybody well that's traveling to the game because I know that we travel very well. We don't get the respect as a program for a 13-year program that is, one, fighting generational Aggies, generational Longhorns as part of our fandom, right? The minute the Longhorns started playing good, you can see it. Everybody started posting all their Longhorn stuff. Look at them. They will have something Longhorn in their bio. Some photo, right? I've never done that. Well, I did it one time. It was a kick return in the 2015 National Championship with Kenyon Drake, and it was only because of the numbers, because that was Kenyon Drake number was one higher than what Alabama's national championship total was, and he was being chased by the current national championship total from Clemson trying to stop him. So it was kind of like one of those things where if they win, they get that national championship there. It was kind of cool. But that was only because of that. But I didn't post anything like that prior to the game, leading up to the game, during the season, or anything like that. Nope. I'm a Roadrunner. So, trying to look at the roster. This thing, the roster doesn't ever update. So I don't know who's in or who's out. Does it matter? They were 6-6. We're 6-6. They were 5th in the Sun Belt East. And that's another thing. Yeah, this is bogus. You got to have divisions. And let me tell you why you have to have divisions. Because if you don't have divisions, you're going to have exactly what happened with SMU and what happened with Texas. SMU played one of the easiest schedules in the ACC compared to Clemson. Texas compared to Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia played a much easier schedule. Oh, absolutely. Both those teams made it to the conference championship game because they played an easier schedule. Nobody was used. They played easier teams. Those teams weren't geared up for them, right? They didn't know what to expect. Well, they get the championship game, and Clemson. I don't care what the score was. Clemson made SMU look like an AAC team that wasn't even a championship AAC team. My personal belief. Texas lost to struggled with Texas A&M and then lost to Georgia twice. To me, that's unacceptable. You got to have divisions. You got to have divisions because you gotta be able to balance. Well, the balance changes over time. But if you don't have divisions, then you're going to have a team rise up to the top that's really not as good as they shouldn't be in that position. All right. So I think I've rambled long enough on this live chat. Let's see what's going on. Let's hopefully we get this win. And I will do a regular video. I'll do a little bit more. But this was kind of impromptu because I'm trying to figure out if I want to go live going forward or not, and I just want to see what the software is like. And come find out, just good old YouTube works out perfectly fine. Just remember, peace out, birds up, Roadrunners forever. And before I leave, before I go, just remember. Yeah, see? I I don't know. The way the camera is, it's just so weird. Let me that's why I like my iPhone. I can see super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Peace out, birds up, Fappo. Boo!